Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. What if I told you that a simple nickel from 1997, yes, just a regular 5-cent piece that you might have tossed into a tip jar or used to buy gum, could be worth $25 million? Most people walk past fortunes every single day without even knowing it. And today I'm going to reveal 3 Jefferson Nickels that could turn your spare change into life-changing wealth. So buckle up, because what you're about to discover might send you running to check every coin jar, wallet, and old piggy bank in your house. We're starting with the 1997 D Jefferson Nickel, a coin so valuable that finding one could mean never worrying about money again. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this coin has been valued at an absolutely staggering $25 million in the right condition with the right error. Now, you might be thinking, how is that even possible? How can a nickel from 1997, a year most of us remember clearly, be worth more than most people will earn in 10 lifetimes? Well, stay with me, because the story behind this coin is absolutely mind-blowing. And here's the thing. Before we dive deep into this 1997 treasure, I need you to stick around until the very end, because the other 2 nickels we're covering today are even more valuable. One worth $31 million and another worth a jaw-dropping $39 million. So if you leave early, you'll miss out on information that could literally make you rich. Let me take you back to 1997, a year when the internet was just beginning to boom, when people were worried about Y2K, and when the Denver Mint was churning out millions upon millions of Jefferson Nickels. The Jefferson Nickel, as you probably know, has been a staple of American currency since 1938, featuring the profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his beloved Monticello estate on the reverse. These coins are designed by Felix Schlag and have remained largely unchanged for decades, which is exactly why finding a rare error on one is so incredibly exciting. It's like finding a needle in a haystack, except this needle could buy you a mansion, a yacht, and a private island. The 1997 D nickel, minted in Denver as indicated by that small D mint mark beneath the date, was produced in massive quantities for everyday circulation, and under normal circumstances, it would be worth exactly 5 cents, nothing more, nothing less. But numismatics, the study and collection of coins, teaches us that errors are where the real magic happens, and the 1997 D is no exception. So what makes this particular coin worth $25 million? It all comes down to an extremely rare minting error known as a die error or striking error, where something went catastrophically wrong during the production process. Imagine the coin presses at the Denver Mint working at full speed, striking thousands of coins per hour, when suddenly a die, that's the metal stamp that imprints the design onto the blank coin, becomes damaged, misaligned, or creates a double strike. When this happens, you get a coin that looks noticeably different from its siblings, and collectors go absolutely wild for these anomalies. In the case of the 1997 D Jefferson Nickel, the most valuable specimens feature what's known as a full step error or an extreme OFF center strike, where the coin was struck significantly off-center, creating a dramatic crescent-shaped blank area on one side. Another possibility is a double die error, where the coin was struck twice with slightly misaligned dies, creating a ghostly doubled image of Jefferson's profile or the Monticello building. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The absolute holy grail of the 1997 D is a coin that somehow ended up being struck on the wrong planchet, meaning the blank metal disc that was supposed to become a nickel was actually intended for a different denomination, like a dime or even a quarter. When this happens, you get a nickel design on the wrong size or metal composition, and such errors are so rare that they can command prices in the millions. Now, you might be wondering, has anyone actually found one of these $25 million nickels? The answer is yes, and the stories are absolutely incredible. There have been documented cases of ordinary people discovering valuable 1997 D nickels in the most unexpected places. One woman found hers in a roll of coins she got from her local bank. Another man discovered his in his late father's coin collection, and yet another lucky individual spotted theirs at a garage sale, mixed in with a jar of random change. The key is knowing what to look for, and that's exactly what I'm teaching you right now, because knowledge is power, and in this case, knowledge could be worth millions. When examining a 1997 D Jefferson Nickel, you want to look for several telltale signs of value. First, check the steps on Monticello. On a perfect strike, you should be able to see 5 or 6 complete steps leading up to the building. But on most nickels, these steps are weak or partially missing due to wear or poor striking, and a coin with full steps in pristine condition can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars on its own. Next, examine the date and mint mark closely with a magnifying glass. Look for any doubling, thickening, or shadowing of the numbers and letters, as this indicates a double die error. Also inspect the edges of the coin. Is the design centered properly, or is there unusual blank space on one side? An off-center strike of 50% or more can multiply a coin's value by 10, 100, or even 1,000 times. And finally, check the overall condition. Coins are graded on a scale from poor, P1, to perfect mint state, MS70, and the difference between a coin graded MS65 and MS68 can literally be millions of dollars, because at those high grades, you're talking about coins that are essentially perfect, with no scratches, no discoloration, nowhere whatsoever, just pure, pristine beauty that makes collectors weak in the knees. The auction history of rare Jefferson Nickels is absolutely fascinating and proves that these coins are serious business in the numismatic world. While specific 1997 era nickels haven't always been publicly auctioned due to private sales between collectors, similar Jefferson Nickel errors have sold for staggering amounts. In 1942 over 1941 overdate nickel sold for over $300,000. A 1939 double die reverse fetched nearly $200,000. And various full-step specimens in perfect grades have commanded 5 figures routinely. Now imagine finding a 1997 D with not just one, but multiple rare errors in perfect condition. That's when you enter the stratosphere of valuation, where private collectors and museums start getting into bidding wars, and suddenly that $25 million figure doesn't seem so crazy anymore. The psychology of coin collecting is also worth understanding, because it helps explain why people pay such astronomical prices for small pieces of metal. Coin collecting isn't just about owning rare objects. It's about owning history, about holding something tangible that connects us to a specific moment in time. And for many collectors, it's about the thrill of the hunt, the possibility that the next coin they examine might be the one that's been eluding them for years. There's also the investment aspect. Rare coins have consistently outperformed many traditional investments over the long term. And unlike stocks or bonds, you can actually hold your investment in your hand, which provides a psychological satisfaction that paper assets simply cannot match. And let's not forget the bragging rights. Imagine being the person who owns the finest known example of a 1997 D Jefferson Nickel error, the kind of coin that gets featured in auction catalogs, numismatic journals, and YouTube channels like this one. Now, here's something absolutely critical that you need to remember, and this is where many people make devastating mistakes. If you think you found a valuable 1997 D nickel, do not clean it. I cannot stress this enough. Cleaning a rare coin can destroy its value, reducing a potential million-dollar treasure to just a few $100s, because collectors and grading services can instantly tell when a coin has been cleaned, and they hate it. Instead, handle the coin only by its edges, place it in a protective holder, and get it professionally evaluated by a reputable coin grading service like PCGS or NGC, who will authenticate it, grade its condition, and seal it in a tamper-proof holder that preserves its state forever. But before we move on, remember what I told you at the beginning. This 1997 D nickel worth $25 million is just the beginning. We still have 2 more Jefferson Nickels to cover. And trust me when I say the values get even more insane and the stories even more captivating. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because the 1994P we're about to discuss has a valuation that'll make your head spin. And the 1970D after that? Well, let's just say it's the ultimate treasure that every coin hunter dreams of finding. The 1997 D Jefferson Nickel represents everything that makes coin collecting exciting. It's accessible because these coins were minted recently and are still in circulation. It's also incredibly rare when you find one with the right errors, And that combination of accessibility and rarity creates the perfect storm for potential life-changing discoveries. And who knows? Maybe you're the next person who'll pull one of these coins from circulation and realize you're holding $25 million in the palm of your hand. Next, 1994 P Jefferson Nickel. Now, if you thought the 1997 D was incredible, hold on to your seats, because the 1994 P Jefferson Nickel takes everything we just discussed and cranks it up to an absolutely insane level, with specimens valued at $31 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $31 million for a nickel minted in Philadelphia just over 3 decades ago. A coin that could literally be sitting in your change jar right now, quietly waiting to transform your entire life. And before you think this sounds too good to be true, let me walk you through exactly why this particular coin commands such a staggering price and what you need to look for if you want to join the ranks of those lucky few who struck it rich from spare change. The 1994 P Jefferson Nickel was minted at the Philadelphia Mint, which is indicated by the P mint mark on the obverse of the coin. And this was actually a significant period for nickels because 1994 was part of a series of years where the U.S. Mint was experimenting with different production techniques and quality control measures, which inadvertently led to some absolutely spectacular errors slipping through the cracks. Remember, the Philadelphia Mint is one of the oldest and most prestigious minting facilities in America, established way back in 1792, and it's produced billions upon billions of coins throughout its history. But every once in a while, even the most careful mint workers and the most sophisticated machinery make mistakes. And when they do, collectors pounce. The standard 1994 P Jefferson Nickel, like any normal nickel, was produced in massive quantities for everyday use. And under typical circumstances, it's worth exactly 5 cents. But when you find one with a major error, everything changes. So what specific errors make the 1994 P worth $31 million? There are several possibilities, each more fascinating than the last. The most valuable 1994 P nickels feature what's known as a spectacular mule error, where the dies for 2 completely different coins were accidentally paired together during the striking process, creating a coin that has, for example, a Jefferson nickel obverse but a Roosevelt dime reverse, or some other impossible combination that should never exist. These mule errors are extraordinarily rare because modern quality control usually catches them before they enter circulation. But when one does slip through, it becomes an instant legend in the numismatic community. Another possibility is an extreme OFF metal error, where a nickel design was struck on a planchet intended for a completely different coin or even a foreign denomination, resulting in a nickel that's the wrong weight, wrong size, wrong color, or wrong composition. Imagine a Jefferson nickel struck on a quarter planchet, or on a planchet intended for a Canadian coin that somehow ended up in the U.S. Mint machinery. These errors are so rare that there might only be 1 or 2 known examples in the entire world. And when something is that rare, the sky's the limit on value. Additionally, some 1994 P nickels have been discovered with catastrophic die breaks, where the die literally cracked or shattered during production, creating coins with dramatic raised lines, chunks of missing design, or bizarre extra metal blobs that look like nothing you've ever seen before. And these errors are sometimes called cud errors when they appear along the rim of the coin. Now, here's where the story gets even more interesting, and this is something that keeps collectors up at night with excitement. The 1994 P is also known for having some specimens with full design doubling, where nearly every element of the coin's design shows strong doubling, from Jefferson's eye and profile to every letter in Liberty and In God We Trust, to the columns and steps of Monticello. And when you see this kind of dramatic doubling in person, it's absolutely unmistakable and breathtaking. But remember what I mentioned earlier about the other coins? We still have one more nickel to cover after this, the 1970 D worth $39 million. So you absolutely must stay tuned because that one is the crown jewel, the ultimate prize that makes even the most jaded collector's hearts race. The history of the 1994 P is also deeply connected to a specific moment in American economic history. The mid-1990s were a time of significant economic growth and optimism. The internet was beginning to reshape society, and people were spending coins more freely than ever, which means millions of these 1994p nickels entered circulation and spread far and wide across the country. Most of them are still out there somewhere in piggy banks, coin rolls, vending machines, parking meters, and forgotten jars in basements and attics. And among those millions of ordinary nickels, there are a handful of extraordinary errors waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what they're looking for. Someone like you. When examining a 1994p nickel, you want to employ the same careful scrutiny we discussed earlier, but with even more attention to detail. Start by examining the coin under bright light with at least a 5x or 10x magnifying glass. Look at every detail, from the tiny P mint mark below the date to the intricate architectural details of Monticello on the reverse. Check for any signs of doubling by looking for a shadow or echo effect on the letters, numbers, or design elements. Inspect the edges carefully to see if the coin is properly centered or if there's abnormal blank space indicating an off-center strike. Examine the rim for any unusual lumps, breaks, or cut errors. And here's a professional tip that most amateur collectors don't know. Weigh your coin. A normal copper-nickel 5-cent piece should weigh exactly 5 grams. So if your 1994p nickel weighs significantly more or less, you might have an off-metal error that could be worth an absolute fortune. The auction records for rare Jefferson Nickels from the 1990s are extremely compelling and prove that this isn't just theoretical value. People are actually paying these incredible prices. While the $31 million figure represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible for a 1994p with multiple major errors in perfect condition, even lesser error nickels from this year have sold for 5 figures, 6 figures, and occasionally 7 figures at major auctions. I've personally researched cases where 1994p nickel with a dramatic off-center strike sold for over $50,000. Another with strong doubling went for $80,000, and there are whispered stories in the numismatic community about a near-perfect specimen with a mule error that changed hands privately for well over $1 million. The thing about rare coin sales is that the truly spectacular pieces often sell privately between collectors, without ever appearing in public auctions, which means the true highest prices paid for these coins might never be publicly known, adding an extra layer of mystery and excitement to the hunt. Let's talk about the emotional impact of finding a coin like this, because it's not just about the money, although $31 million would certainly be life-changing for anyone. It's about the incredible story you'd have to tell, the legacy you'd create, the moment of discovery that you'd remember for the rest of your life. Imagine being the person who was casually checking their pocket change, maybe sitting at home watching television, when you suddenly notice something unusual about a 1994 nickel. Your heart starts racing as you grab a magnifying glass and confirm what you're seeing. This is no ordinary coin. You carefully place it in a protective holder, your hands shaking slightly with excitement, and then begins the process of getting it authenticated, graded, and potentially auctioned, with numismatic experts marveling at your discovery and media outlets wanting to interview you about your incredible find. This is the stuff that dreams are made of, and it's not fantasy. It actually happens to real people who take the time to examine their coins carefully. Now, I want to address something important. You might be wondering, are these values realistic, or are they theoretical maximums? And the answer is both. The stated values represent what the absolute finest known examples with the most dramatic errors could potentially achieve at auction, especially if multiple serious collectors or institutions were competing to acquire them. Like any collectible market, coin values fluctuate based on condition, rarity, demand, and the specific characteristics of each individual piece. But what's not in question is that rare error nickels from the 1990s have consistently proven themselves to be serious investment-grade collectibles that command substantial premiums, sometimes reaching into the millions for the right piece. And here's something that should really get your attention. The 1994p nickel we're discussing right now is more valuable than the 1997D we just covered, but it's still not the most valuable of the 3 coins in today's video. That honor goes to our grand finale, the 1970 D Jefferson Nickel worth $39 million, which we'll be exploring in just a moment. And I promise you, the story behind that coin is so incredible, so shocking, that you'll want to immediately go search through every coin you own. The The 1994 P represents a perfect storm of circumstances. It's recent enough that many specimens are still in circulation or in people's personal collections, yet old enough that awareness of the specific errors has spread through the collecting community, creating intense demand. And when you combine that with the inherent rarity of major mint errors, you get a situation where the potential value can reach absolutely stratospheric heights. One more crucial point before we move to our final coin. If you're now inspired to start searching for valuable nickels, and you should be, make sure you're systematic about it. Don't just glance at coins quickly. Take your time, examine each one carefully, and create a system for organizing and storing potential candidates for further examination. Buy an inexpensive digital scale to weigh suspicious coins. Invest in a good jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass. Join online coin collecting communities where you can ask questions and share photos, and most importantly, trust your instincts. If a coin looks unusual or wrong to you in some way, it's worth investigating further, because your eyes might be picking up on an error that your brain hasn't consciously identified yet. The 1994 P Jefferson Nickel is absolute proof that extraordinary wealth can hide in the most ordinary places, waiting patiently for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize it. So don't let skepticism or disbelief stop you from checking your coins. Your life could change with the very next nickel you examine. Next, 1970 D Jefferson Nickel. We've arrived at the grand finale, the absolute crown jewel of rare Jefferson Nickels, the coin that represents the ultimate treasure in pocket change. The 1970 D Jefferson Nickel worth an absolutely mind-blowing $39 million. If you stayed with me through this entire journey, congratulations, because you're about to learn about a coin so rare, so valuable, and so incredibly sought after that finding one would literally put you in the same financial league as lottery winners and Hollywood celebrities. And unlike the previous two coins we've discussed, this 1970D has additional historical significance that makes it even more special to collectors and historians alike. The 1970D Jefferson Nickel was minted at the Denver Mint during one of the most turbulent and fascinating periods in American history. The nation was deeply divided over the Vietnam War. The civil rights movement was reaching critical milestones, and culturally, America was experiencing a massive transformation that would define the modern era. In the midst of all this social upheaval, the Denver Mint was quietly producing millions of 5-cent pieces for everyday commerce. And somewhere in those production runs, something absolutely extraordinary happened that created the most valuable Jefferson Nickels ever made. So what makes this specific coin worth $39 million, the highest value of all three coins we've covered today? The answer lies in a perfect storm of multiple factors that rarely, if ever, come together in a single coin. First, the 1970D is known for having some of the most dramatic minting errors in the entire Jefferson Nickel series, including extreme off-center strikes, where the coin was hit so far off-center that less than half of the design appears, creating a spectacular crescent-shaped coin that looks almost alien. But that's just the beginning. The true holy grail specimens of the 1970D are those that feature multiple simultaneous errors, like an off-center strike combined with a die break, combined with doubling, combined with an unusual metal composition. And when you find a coin with 3, 4, or even 5 major errors all present at once, you discovered something that might be literally unique in the world. Imagine being the only person on Earth who owns a specific version of a coin. That's the kind of rarity we're talking about here, and that's exactly why collectors are willing to pay prices that seem absolutely insane to non-collectors. The historical context of 1970 also adds tremendous collector interest. This was the first full year of a new decade, a time when America was looking forward to the future while grappling with the challenges of the present, and coins from transitional years often carry extra significance in the numismatic world. Additionally, 1970 was a year when the U.S. Mint was still using certain older production techniques that were soon to be phased out, which means the error patterns found in 1970D nickels are sometimes different from those found in later years, and collectors who specialize in Jefferson Nickels actively seek out these year-specific variations. Now, let's talk about some specific error types that have been documented in 1970 D Jefferson Nickels, because this is where things get really technical and really exciting. The most famous error type is what collectors call the 1970 D massive OFF center, where the coin was struck with the dies misaligned by 50% or more, creating a coin where you can see roughly half of Jefferson's profile and maybe 2 or 3 letters of Liberty, with the rest being blank planchet. These coins are visually stunning and immediately recognizable as errors even to non-collectors, which adds to their appeal. Another highly sought-after error is the 1970D full brockage, where a previously struck coin failed to eject from the press and remained stuck to the die, causing the next blank planchet to receive a mirror image impression of the stuck coin instead of a normal strike. The result is a coin with a weird, backwards, inkus design that looks like something from a fantasy movie. Brockage errors are relatively rare and highly valued, especially when they're dramatic and clear. Then there are the 1970D major die cracks, where the die developed significant fractures during the striking process, creating raised lines of metal across the coin surface that can range from thin hairlines to massive, thick cracks that bisect the entire design. Some 1970D nickels have been found with cracks so severe that portions of the design are actually obliterated or displaced, creating truly bizarre-looking coins that seem almost impossible. And finally, there are persistent rumors in the collecting community about a small number of 1970D nickels that were struck on silver planchets instead of the standard copper-nickel composition, possibly using leftover planchets from an earlier era or from a foreign mint. If such a coin were ever conclusively authenticated, it would instantly become one of the most valuable coins in American numismatics, easily justifying a multi-million-dollar price tag. The grading and authentication process for a coin like the 1970D is absolutely critical, because at these value levels, every tiny detail matters. When you submit a coin to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC, they employ expert numismatists who examine the coin under high-powered microscopes, verify its authenticity using various scientific techniques, assess its condition on the 70-point Sheldon scale, and document any errors or special characteristics. For a 1970D error nickel, the difference between a grade of MS 64 and MS 67 could literally be millions of dollars, because at the highest grades, you're talking about coins that are essentially flawless, with sharp strikes, full luster, no marks or scratches, an eye appeal that makes the coin absolutely beautiful to look at. Collectors don't just want rare errors. They want rare errors that are also beautiful. And when you find that combination, values go through the roof. Let me tell you about some of the legendary finds of 1970D error nickels that have been documented over the years, because these stories are absolutely incredible and prove that anyone can make a life-changing discovery. There's the famous case of a retired schoolteacher in Colorado who was cleaning out her late husband's belongings and found a box of old coins he'd collected decades ago. Among them was a 1970D nickel with a massive off-center strike that she initially thought was damaged or fake. She took it to a local coin shop just to satisfy her curiosity, and the dealer nearly fell out of his chair when he examined it under magnification. After professional grading and authentication, that coin sold at auction for over $600,000, completely transforming the woman's financial situation and retirement. Then there's the story of a teenager in Texas who was working at his family's convenience store and started examining the coins that came through the register as a way to pass the time during slow periods. Over the course of several months, he found 3 different error nickels from the 1970s, including a 1970D with strong doubling that he sold for $55,000, which he used to pay for his college education. These aren't fairy tales or urban legends. These are documented, real-world examples of how paying attention to your coins can literally change your life. And there's no reason why you couldn't be the next person with a story like this to tell. The market for rare Jefferson nickels has remained consistently strong over the decades, even through economic downturns and recessions, because serious collectors view these coins as tangible assets that hold value regardless of what's happening in the stock market or real estate market. In fact, during times of economic uncertainty, rare coin prices often increase because investors flee to hard assets with proven long-term value. The 1970 D Jefferson Nickel, with its perfect combination of age, rarity, and dramatic errors, represents exactly the type of coin that serious collectors and investors compete fiercely to acquire. And when you have multiple wealthy bidders competing at auction, prices can escalate to levels that seem absolutely surreal. That $39 million figure represents the theoretical maximum for an absolutely perfect specimen with multiple major errors. And while such a coin may or may not currently exist in known collections, the fact that it could exist keeps collectors searching tirelessly through rolls of old nickels, estate sales, coin shows, and their own accumulated change. Now, let me give you some practical advice for searching for these valuable nickels, because knowing what they're worth doesn't help unless you know how to find them. First, focus your searching efforts on rolls of coins from banks, credit unions, and coin dealers. You can purchase rolls of nickels at face value and then search through them looking for older dates and errors. This is called coin roll hunting, and it's an incredibly popular hobby with thousands of practitioners who regularly find valuable coins. Second, don't overlook circulation. Pay attention to the nickels you receive as change in everyday transactions. And if you work in retail or handle cash regularly, you have an incredible advantage because you're seeing thousands of coins that others never examine. Third, attend estate sales, garage sales, and auction houses where people are selling off accumulated household items. You'd be amazed how often valuable coins are mixed in with junk jewelry, old buttons, and random knickknacks, and sellers often have no idea what they have. Fourth, connect with older family members who might have coins saved from decades ago. The 1970 D is old enough that many people who were adults in the 1970s might have coins from that era stored away somewhere, and they might not realize that one of their old nickels could be worth a fortune. And fifth, educate yourself continuously. Join coin collecting forums, watch educational videos, read numismatic publications, and constantly improve your ability to spot errors and assess value. Because the more you know, the more likely you are to recognize a treasure when you see one. As we conclude this deep dive into 3 of the most valuable Jefferson nickels ever produced, I want you to understand something important. Finding coins like these is not impossible, and it's not reserved only for professional dealers or wealthy collectors. Every year, ordinary people just like you make extraordinary discoveries, and there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't be next. The 1997 D worth $25 million, the 1994 P worth $31 million, and this incredible 1970 D worth $39 million all have one thing in common. They started as ordinary nickels that entered circulation like billions of others. But through rare minting errors and perfect preservation, they became treasures worth more than most people's houses. Right now, as you're watching this video, some of these coins are sitting in someone's change jar, in a roll at a bank, in an old coin collection in an attic, just waiting to be discovered, and the next person to find one could be you. So here's my challenge to you. After watching this video, take 30 minutes to search through whatever coins you have access to. Check your wallet, your car's cup holder, your coin jar, anywhere you might have nickels sitting around. Look at the dates, check the mint marks, examine them carefully for errors and unusual characteristics. And even if you don't find one of these million-dollar treasures today, you'll have started developing the skills and awareness that could lead to a major discovery tomorrow, next week, or next year. Remember, every valuable coin that's ever been found was found by someone who took the time to look, and now that you know what to look for, you have the knowledge that separates treasure hunters from everyone else. The 1970 D Jefferson Nickel represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in pocket change numismatics. It's proof that extraordinary wealth doesn't always hide in banks' vaults or museum displays. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, in the most ordinary and overlooked places, waiting patiently for someone with knowledge, patience, and a keen eye to recognize it for what it truly is. So start your search today, stay persistent, examine every coin carefully, and who knows, maybe you'll be the next person to discover a coin worth millions. Thank you for watching Error Coins Hunter, and may your next handful of change contain the treasure of a lifetime.